Welcome back to Patman Garage. We're jumping back in the Lightning, and man, I could get used to this. This is a pretty good gig. So not only do I have someone's cool truck here, he sent me some new parts for it. So I got a new catch can we're going to install, and we're going to take a look at modifying the power steering bracket as well. So I'll let y'all take a look and see what we're up to today. So brand new catch can from UPR. So we'll get that guy installed somewhere over this direction, and might have to modify some brackets. Maybe we can sneak it in right in here on top of the battery tray. Would be nice. So we'll figure out what that is going to look like, and the hoses for it, and then the power steering bracket. All right, so the power steering bracket is actually for the reservoir. And it's sitting a little low and a little bit far out to where let's see if I can get down in here. So this guy here is rubbing the steering shaft. You can see there's kind of a dark line down here. Now he put had somebody put another rubber piece around it just to be sacrificial. But I'm thinking if we can get the reservoir a little higher up, and also in a little bit tighter to the engine, that we can actually get this thing to not rub at all, even like actually remove the sacrificial piece altogether. At least that's the goal. So it looks like we have a decent amount of material on the bracket itself. So my goal, or my first plan of action, is going to be pulling the bracket off completely, maybe adding a bend tighter in here, and then taking this bend out. So basically where these two sit will be more like up here. So we're going to have to straighten this bracket on this bend and then add a bend here. Looks doable, looks reasonably doable, and that will solve the inward and up at the same time. So that's what we're going to play with today. We're going to get the bracket pulled off and do the catch can. And we may also look at doing something different with the air filter. We may build a kickstand bracket or something, because it just kind of it's flopping in space, and it's actually rubbing. Oh, come on, light. It's actually rubbing here on the where it sits on the reservoir. So that little tab's in the way, and it's going to start chewing up our filter. So we want to get that fixed as well. So I got lots of little things here, but we'll pop the intake off just to give us more space to get to the bracket, and then we'll get to playing with modifying that bracket. All right, got my intake set off to the side. You can better see that wear mark on the filter I was talking about earlier. So we definitely want to keep that from happening worse in the future. And he also mentioned something that he might want to do something different altogether with the intake. So I'm not going to invest a ton of time building that bracket right this second, but we may explore options with that. But with the filter removed, you can get a little bit better visualization of what we got going on with this bracket. So I said these two 10s, I'm going to pull them, rebend this, and then to get the bracket off, looks like maybe like a 17 or a 18 or 19 millimeter down there at the bottom. So we'll get the bracket removed, set the reservoir off to the side, and then modify the bracket and see how it fits after that. And with the reservoir now removed from the bracket, you can see better what this line is doing down here. You can see that rub mark there, talked about earlier. Well, if I didn't have a shadow, So you can see the rubbing mark there. Very evident right in there that it's rubbing. So we're gonna see if we can't get that resolved. Boy, I was totally wrong on the size on this one, eyeballing it. It's actually a 22. So we'll get these broken loose and remove that bracket now. All right, bracket removed, pretty simple here. We're gonna get this thing in the vise and see if we can't straighten it up and then rebend it. Oh, maybe not. Have to get some more leverage here. Well, it's not perfect, but this metal is a little bit thicker than I probably would have liked to have been bending at home, but we got the job done. I got some touch-up paint on it, and we're gonna get the bracket reinstalled and see how we look after a test fit here. So there's the new shape of the bracket. It's got a little bit more of a bend here, and then flattened out the initial bend as much as I could, and then I added a new about a 90-degree on it. We're gonna do some test fitment and see how we go. Well, my initial look through, it looks pretty good fitment-wise. We're going to get the reservoir bolted on and see how we look after that. Oh. All right, test fit. I got the top bolts. I just set them in there and actually put the reservoir on top of the bracket instead of below the bracket, which will also help give us just a little bit more height out of it, about a quarter inch or so. And our test fit down here, this is the money shot. Look at that. You got airspace now. So we can remove the spacer and gain a little bit more clearance there. And we're not even too far over where we're up against the header. So we're in just the right spot overall. I'm really happy with that. Even more happy that we didn't have to actually cut or weld the bracket. We just able to bend it and tweak it a little bit, make it fit a little nicer in there. And we'll get the rest of the hardware put on it and on to the next project. Well, now that we got the bracket test fit, and I went ahead and removed it again, and I realized afterwards that these the nuts were really hard to hold on to with the way that reservoir shaped. It kind of ends up looking like this. So since they are a steel bracket and a steel nut, I can remove the bracket, have them welded, and then we won't ever have to worry about holding on to them ever again. So I'm gonna take this to work and get it welded, and then we will get it reinstalled for the final time. All right, so that project's on hold until I get that bracket welded up. Started mocking up the catch can. And it's going to fit really nicely here on the battery tray like we talked about, but these hoses are a mile long. So I pulled the fitting off of this guy, and that will allow us to shorten this hose by several inches and get the fitting put back in here. And then we're going to do the same thing on this guy because it's, Jesus, man, it's like... It's sticking up really weird, so we're going to get that shortened probably about a foot until we're happy with where it's going to sit at. So I will mark these with tape, and then we'll cut them, and then we'll do another test fit, and if we need to cut more, we cut more. Always easy to cut a second time than it is to try to add some hose back on it. All right, so I got it just kind of mocked in here at the moment. I still need to bolt it down, so we're going to work on doing that first, and that way we get the exact placement before we start cutting our hoses up. But this is the general layout of what we're going to do here with the hoses, and we'll get it mounted up. Well, I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. I mean, I think it looks pretty good. It fits in there pretty nicely. It lays on top of harness and other vacuum stuff right in here, and I shortened this guy up quite a bit, almost in half, and I think I'm pleased with it. And I got it mounted down to the bracket that holds the battery tray. I used one existing hole, only had to drill one hole. It was like it was meant to be there, so that turned out pretty sweet. And yeah, we're gonna wait on getting the power steering bracket back from getting welded, and just like that, the bracket is welded with the 2 nuts on it. So we'll get it reinstalled again and actually get the reservoir put on for real this time. So we're going to end this video here for now, and we're going to take a look at a few more things on the list later this week and maybe this weekend, and we'll keep you all along for the ride. So relatively easy projects this time, no big deal, but nice attention to detail, get some of these little things figured out. So anyways, I appreciate y'all checking out another video, and look forward to making a couple more of this truck before it goes back home. And that's it. So I will catch you in the next one.